Good? Okay. Tinker Hatfield, Nike's vice president for design and special projects, and the force behind some 24 versions of the iconic Air Jordan sneakers, states, "When you sit down to design something, it can be anything, a car, a toaster, a house, a tall building, or a shoe. What you draw or what you design is really a culmination of everything that you've done or seen in your life previous to that point." One particular graduate epitomizes, in my mind, Hatfield's creative ambition. He starts with big aspirations, he trusts his own particular passion and personality, and he thinks about small detail in refining his presentation, asks questions to clarify, and all the while he keeps his mind on his own larger vision, the impulse that sparked his initial creative idea. During the last few days before our production of Tempest, while I was still wondering whether he'd quite nailed down all of his lines, he asked me, "Would it be okay if I made a cape for Prospero?" "You're gonna make it?" "Yeah," he said, "I have an idea." My practical mind went immediately to the notion that I'd prefer he spent his time going over his lines, but I'm glad that I bit my tongue. I needed to trust his enthusiasm, that his idea was importantly his own, and that it would assist his command of the part. He knew what he was doing, even if he didn't yet have the exact design in mind. And clearly his interest in the part itself, indeed his very interest in trying out for that part in the first place, informed his larger idea. The cape was experimental, though the concept for it was concrete. By the same premise, he designed his own version of Prospero, shifting gesture, playfulness, and tone through successive experiments, all the while staying true to his own concept. His Prospero revealed what he knew of the world already and what he wanted it to become. Admittedly, as tends to be the case for most comic book heroes, he has not always used his powers for good. Dave recalls, "For years he was known as the aid station bandit within the ultra running race community, a namesake earned by his liberating copious amounts of snacks intended for runners. As he has grown taller and has lost the innocent look of a child, he can no longer find his way into the aid stations, and he has therefore passed his ninja skills on to Max. It's kind of like the Dread Pirate Roberts, in that the mask has changed hands to let the legend and the pilfering continue unabated." Last spring, I doubt that I would have used the word ambitious to describe him, as he was much too mired in doubt, and too often he talked himself out of his own best ideas. I saw tremendous potential in him, but I also saw fear. Not yet ambition. I needed to trust my colleagues, those who knew him on deeper levels and over years of experience. During tryouts for Midsummers, Jen, Dave, Beth, and Debbie all assured me of his capabilities, having seen him rise to a similar challenge. They said that he had been awesome as Hamlet the year before, and that he had been himself. Certainly he rose to the challenge of playing Lysander in Midsummers, and though his command of lines remained questionable up until his performance, he let his creative ambition emerge. And I saw on stage the characteristic individualism that my colleagues already knew. I saw him enjoying himself, making the part his own, realizing the lines by understanding the character, and letting himself relax within a difficult undertaking. This year I have enjoyed seeing his continuous progress in multiple experimental and creative capacities. He has asked insightful questions, confident that the answers were complicated and would lead him to still more questions. He sought his own answers. He revised. He reworked his own methods to develop and to showcase his deserved confidence. And in the course of his experiments, he stayed true to himself. There were many times when I wondered if he might use his time to more practical means, but I'm glad that he didn't heed my reservations, because I got to see results from him that I never would have thought of myself, and that I never would have had the guts to pull off when I was his age. I had no idea who I was in 8th grade. He has his own distinct style. It's honest, and I have no doubt he will continue to refine it in the years ahead. Whatever he ends up doing in life, he will secure his prosperity by listening to his own ambition. He knows that honesty is a noble virtue. Each of his various creations will reflect the world around him. The details he appreciates, his relationships with others, his deeply emotional stake in his own decisions. And he will infuse his own unique personality into new, exciting prospects. He has the world ahead of him, and I am fortunate to have taught him. Bridger Carlton.
Hello, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Haley Berg and I teach Spanish. All right. Allow me to share a scene with you all that takes place 10 years from now in the life of one of our 8th grade graduates. All right, señores y señoras, we have approximately 15 minutes, that's 15 minutos, until the beginning of the most fabulous Costa Rican wedding. Fernando, double check that each of the 10 tables has 7 place settings. Luis, put the champagne on ice for toast. Lupita, is our buffet with delicious gluten, soy, and dairy-free options ready? I'm so excited to try those. Rosa, is the bride and groom slideshow queued up and ready to go? I just love romance and how couples meet. Rápido, todos, ahora, nos faltan 14 minutos. You've just witnessed a scene of an international wedding planner in Costa Rica. After traveling with this particular Emerald graduate for 6 days in Washington, D.C., I can safely say that she loves to talk about schedules, details, gluten, soy, and dairy-free options, traveling, romance, and making requests to be at my non-existent wedding. And she loves to give instructions to others. Yes. She has been a student at Emerald Mountain School for the past 3 years, and I have been her Spanish teacher for 2. Over the past 3 years as a middle schooler, she has grown in a variety of ways that I personally can speak to, and I will tell you how they connect to her future career. Academically speaking, I have seen her Spanish knowledge, curiosity, and enthusiasm increase exponentially, especially since she had not taken Spanish before Emerald. She was so enraptured with the soap opera that we watch in class that she finished it on her own, all 7 seasons, and told me about the highlights. While we were in D.C., there were unexpected moments where she said she only wanted me to speak to her in Spanish, and she responded in Spanish as well. Thus, her need to work as an international wedding planner in Spanish-speaking countries. Beyond her Spanish, I also got to witness her increased confidence with public speaking. Prior to watching her 7th grade academic reflection, I was told she highly disliked public speaking, and she had her reservations in front of me, her mom, and her grandma. This year, however, she took on her academic reflection in a classroom full of faculty and family, and she spoke as if she had years of experience. She is definitely ready to address her wedding planning team with the utmost confidence. She also has a love for writing that has grown over the course of middle school. I was impressed as I sat next to her on the plane to and from DC, and she was adding to her young adult romance novel. Although I've never had the pleasure of seeing her play, I know she has cultivated a love for volleyball, especially during these middle school years. Last fall, I remember driving her from fall camp into town to keep her commitment to one of her volleyball practices. On Mondays in class, when I asked students to recount their weekends in Spanish, she enthusiastically mentioned volleyball, teammates, tournaments, and all the things in between. Therefore, as a pre-wedding day festivity, she could start up rousing games of volleyball with the wedding guests, and she would dominate everyone. Last but not least, I've seen social growth during her time at Emerald. As many of us heard in the 8th grade speeches, she, in particular, brightened the day of her classmates with a smile in the morning, and her caring nature was highlighted within the sibling program. I often heard her make an extra effort to engage the little people in the hallway, and I would see her during all-school meetings, happily holding her siblings in her lap. In wedding planning terms, this translates to extra attention and loving pats on the head of the ring bearer and flower girl. I also noticed her motherly nature on our winter skills yurt trip. One of our former students had been wearing ski boots during her 4-hour solo outdoor expedition, and she arrived back at the yurt. When she did, Miss Motherly pulled off her boots, held her feet in her lap by the stove, and rubbed them until they were warm again. This thoughtful nature will come in handy considering the needs of the anxious bride and groom. On the plane ride back from DC, I asked her, "What was the thing you enjoyed the most about Emerald?" And she paused and said, "Going on trips and bonding with my classmates." As an international wedding planner, she will continue to go on her beloved trips all over the world and use her social skills to connect to those she is with and earn their trust. These are only a few of the many ways I know she has grown during her middle school years at Emerald. As she journeys forward, I know she will carry with her her newfound appreciation for Spanish, her public speaking ability, motivation for writing her own novels, passion for volleyball, affection for peers and those younger than her, desire to go on trips, and the connections she's made with students and teachers. And as she meets many more potential friends in high school, she'll surely remember that to make a friend, you must first be a good friend. And she will continue to share the enthusiastic smile that so many of us have appreciated at Emerald. As she enters high school, I am excited for you know who I'm talking about, to keep discovering who you connect with, what you do well, and what else makes you happy. Congratulations, Kaya Fowler.